Social anxiety disorder is one of the most common anxiety disorders, affecting roughly 7 to 13% of the population. That number is significant, yet it doesn't account for the number of people who struggle with this issue that don't meet the criteria for the disorder. One of the very inconvenient truths about social anxiety, or any anxiety disorder, is the more you avoid what makes you anxious, the more entrenched this problem becomes. So it's important to develop a plan to gradually and consistently increase your exposure to anxiety-provoking places. And I have a 6-step plan to help you do just that. For my first step, I suggest starting with a plan to go out in public that takes your current level of anxiety into account. So if you're uncomfortable going out in public, a good place to start is by writing down all the places you can go at this time, as well as places you would like to go in the future, with a manageable level of anxiety. Once you list them, I suggest rating each place on a scale of 0 to 10, based on how much stress or anxiety you feel about going there. For our purposes, a rating of 0 would be no anxiety, a 10 would be a feeling of extreme anxiety, and a 5 would be a moderate level of anxiety. Now, if you're more of a visual learner, I suggest grabbing a pen and a piece of paper and drawing a line graph. So with the example I've created, places you could visit along with their anxiety rating could include walking down the sidewalk, which would be a 2, going to a public park, which would have a 4, attending an appointment, 5, shopping at a retail store, which is a 6, going to the hospital, 9, shopping at a large retail store during the busiest time of day, which is a 10. And you notice on the far left side of the line, there's a 0 to represent no anxiety, a 5 to represent moderate anxiety, and a 10 to represent extreme anxiety. What we're going to do next is we're going to slot in each public place you can visit that you find stressful and anxiety-provoking, but we'll place them on the graph according to their anxiety rating. This is called an anxiety hierarchy. As you can see in the example I've created, I have walking down the sidewalk as a 2, attending an appointment as a 5, and shopping in a large retail store during the busiest time of day as a 10. And a few other anxiety-provoking places slotted in there as well. And the place to start is to prioritize going to places where you experience minimal to moderate feelings of anxiety at the thought of going there. So essentially, any place on your list where your anxiety rating is a 5 or less. It's important to establish a goal of visiting these places consistently until your anxiety rating drops, ideally to a 2 or less. The key here is to be consistent, because the more you challenge feelings of anxiety, the more likely you are to habituate to them, which means that over time, your feelings of anxiety won't bother you as much, and they'll begin to go down. As you become less anxious going to places that used to create feelings of moderate anxiety, you're now ready to start going to places higher up on the list that currently cause stronger feelings of anxiety. If you continue to follow this routine and remain consistent, eventually you'll be able to visit all the places on your list with a manageable level of anxiety. For the second step, it's important to be prepared physically and mentally before going out in public. You've probably had the experience of going out somewhere when you already felt frazzled from a stressful day. When this happens, typically any stressors you experience or encounter during the course of your day will cause you to feel more uptight and anxious. So if you find going out in certain public places to be stressful before you ever leave the house, it's important to be calm before you do this. Ideally, when you go out, you don't want your anxiety level to exceed a 7. So it's important to use anxiety reduction strategies such as deep breathing or mindfulness to help calm your body. It's also important to settle your mind, and a good way to do that is to focus on the facts as you know them, rather than on feelings of fear or uncertainty. Just because you feel anxious, it doesn't mean that there's a real threat or danger that warrants this level of anxiety. Essentially, the goal of self-talk is to say to yourself, if I put my anxiety aside for a moment, based on all the facts I have, does this activity or situation have a high probability of being safe? If the answer is yes, it doesn't mean that your anxiety will be gone. What it does mean is that when you use your logical mind, you've decided the activity is reasonably safe, so it's time to push forward, participate in the activity, and manage your anxiety. Because if anxiety begins to take over, your world starts to get smaller. For my third step, wherever you choose to go, I encourage you to slow down a little bit instead of having the mindset of, I'm just going to get in and get out. I want you to avoid this mindset, because thinking this way is basically labeling going to this place as an anxiety-provoking activity that warrants being anxious, so you need to get done as fast as possible. And remember, when you used your logical mind just a few moments ago, you already decided this activity is reasonably safe. So once you're in a public park, a store, or so on, the goal is to minimize your feelings of anxiety and try to bring some control and hopefully some enjoyment back to the process. The good news is, you probably already have a recipe or formula for doing this, even though you've probably never thought about it that way. For example, chances are there are places you currently go to or have gone to in the past that make you feel relaxed. So you already instinctively know what to do to feel comfortable in public, and you do those things automatically without thinking about them. In the next few steps, I'll go over a few things that you were likely doing before that we can reintroduce. For my fourth step, I encourage you to use mindful walking. And in case you're wondering what that is, it's not like the Travolta strut or anything like that. And if you have no idea what a Travolta strut is, you really need to treat yourself and watch the movie Saturday Night Fever. But anyway, getting back to mindful walking. It involves staying present in the moment, taking in your surroundings, while taking slow, calming breaths and avoiding engaging with your thoughts. For instance, I have a mother-in-law who does this very well. When she goes shopping, she looks at it like an experience. When shopping for groceries, she takes her time looking at the different items on the shelves, especially in the wine section. She enjoys the temperature-controlled environment and happily focuses on shopping for a great deal. She's so good at this that, in fact, the time it takes her to go up and down a few aisles of the store, I've already finished shopping, waited in line, cashed out, and started waiting for her outside the store. But to be fair to my mother-in-law, she's onto something here. In a 2018 study by Dr. Chi Yang and colleagues, they found that simply adding mindfulness to walking helps to lower stress and anxiety and improve mood. And chances are good that slowing down a little bit, taking in your surroundings, and enjoying the present moment is part of the formula you already use when you go to places where you currently feel comfortable or where you once felt comfortable in the past. For my fifth step, I encourage you to be open to engaging in acts of kindness while you're out in public. Acts of kindness can include many things, such as holding a door open for someone, saying a quick hello, smiling at someone, giving a compliment, or even offering a pleasant gaze or head nod to acknowledge someone. In a 2015 study, Dr. Jennifer True and Dr. Lynn Alden, they studied people who were socially anxious and found that simply performing acts of kindness reliably reduced feelings of anxiety. And one of the reasons I suspect this works so well is that not only does it feel good to do something nice for someone else, but it helps take the focus off your internal feelings of anxiety and discomfort. And when we take the focus off ourselves, and we put it on someone else, we tend to feel better. But you might be wondering, do people even want to engage in public anymore? Nowadays, it's common to see people with their faces buried in their phones. And this has contributed to feelings of anxiety for people as engaging with strangers in public has become less frequent. In a 2014 study by Nicholas Epley and Juliana Schroeder, they had study participants talk to complete strangers while they were commuting. Although the study participants predicted that it would be a negative experience talking to strangers, they found that it ended up being a positive experience that helped to elevate their mood. For my sixth and final step, I encourage you to prioritize socializing while you're out in public. So now that we've established that talking to someone in public won't be as bad as you think, let's take it a step further and prioritize doing this at least one or two occasions. And I don't think we need to look at it as a scientific study to know that we all benefit from a little bit of human interaction, especially given that we're all inherently social creatures to some extent. However, I do want to take a quick look at a study that shows how powerful the benefits of socializing and providing support can be. In a 2016 study by Dr. Tristan Ngaki and colleagues, they found that giving support to others, such as saying something positive to someone or attempting to cheer someone up who you see working while they're out in public, not only helps them feel good, but also reduces your feelings of stress and anxiety by literally rewiring the areas of the brain related to stress and reward. So taking the time to follow these steps should help you feel less anxious about being out in public than when you first started. This is very important because you want to end on a positive note, which means essentially that your anxiety should be lower than when you first went out. So you associate positive feelings with going out in public. That way, you'll be more likely to do it again. And of course, consistency is the key. If you go to a place that's anxiety-provoking over and over again, eventually you become less bothersome as your body and mind become habituated to being there. So to provide a real quick recap, first, you should have a plan before you go out in public. Create an anxiety hierarchy and start by visiting the places that cause the least amount of anxiety before attempting to visit places that cause higher levels of anxiety. Second, make sure your mind and body are calm before you go out in public. Your anxiety level is bound to rise when you go out, so you don't want it to be too high before you start. Third, slow down when you're in an anxiety-provoking place. You already know, logically speaking, that it's safe to be there. So now the goal is to associate being calm and relaxed with being in a place that is currently anxiety-provoking. Fourth, use mindful walking. This will help you to stay in the present moment, promote calm feelings, and help you to avoid engaging with your anxious thoughts. Number 5, engage in acts of kindness. A smile, a quick hello, or a compliment not only helps other people feel good, but it also helps to lower your anxiety. Lastly, socialize in public if you're able to. Whether you know the person or not, socializing can help to lower feelings of anxiety. So I hope you found these steps helpful. If you'd like to learn more about managing social anxiety, please contact Sullivan Associates Clinical Psychology. If you enjoyed this video, like it, share it, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching.